You're not lazy. You're spiritually disconnected. Most people don't say it out loud, but they feel it every day. The heaviness when you wake up, even after a full night's sleep. The resistance you feel toward tasks that once mattered, or maybe never did. The quiet guilt that follows you around, whispering that you should be doing more, becoming more, trying harder. Yet somehow feeling less alive the more you push. And so, you call yourself lazy. You repeat it until it feels true. But what if that label is the lie? What if the exhaustion you feel is not a lack of discipline, but a lack of meaning? What if the problem is not that you don't care enough, but that somewhere along the way, you became disconnected from the deeper part of yourself that once knew why you cared at all? Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you felt genuinely awake inside your own life? Not distracted, not performing, not surviving, but fully present, engaged, and quietly alive. Carl Jung believed that when the soul is ignored, it speaks through symptoms. And what we often call laziness may be one of those symptoms, a signal that the life you are living no longer reflects the person you are becoming. But here's what no one tells you. You can be exhausted without being weak. You can be unmotivated without being broken. And you can be disconnected without even realizing it. Modern culture praises productivity, speed, and constant motion, yet rarely asks whether the direction itself still makes sense. And so many people end up running on empty, not because they lack energy, but because their energy has nowhere meaningful to go. Viktor Frankl observed that humans are not primarily driven by pleasure or power, but by meaning. And when meaning disappears, motivation collapses. No matter how capable or intelligent the person may be. This is why people who appear lazy often come alive when they find something that resonates deeply with them, because effort does not come from force, but from alignment. Now ask yourself, what part of your life feels hollow right now? What goals are you chasing simply because you were told they mattered? What routines are you maintaining out of fear rather than purpose? Alan Watts often spoke about how people confuse motion with progress, mistaking busyness for fulfillment, and in doing so, lose touch with the simple experience of being alive, turning life into a series of obligations rather than an unfolding process to be lived. And when life feels like a checklist rather than a calling, the soul naturally resists. Not out of laziness, out of wisdom. Carl Jung would say that when a person lives too far from their authentic self, the psyche begins to withdraw energy from conscious life, creating fatigue, apathy, and disinterest, not as punishment but as a corrective force meant to redirect attention inward. In this sense, your lack of motivation may actually be an invitation. An invitation to stop, to listen, to question the direction you're moving in. Napoleon Hill believed that sustained effort requires a definiteness of purpose. And without it, discipline eventually collapses under its own weight, because willpower alone cannot sustain a life that feels internally empty. While Jung believed this loss of energy came from unconscious conflict, Hill saw it as mental programming, a mind trained to chase goals that were never truly its own. Different perspectives. Same conclusion: when the soul is disconnected, the body resists. Think about this for a moment. Children are not lazy. They move naturally toward what fascinates them. They lose track of time, not because they are disciplined, but because they are present. Laziness appears later, after years of conditioning, expectation, comparison, and pressure, once curiosity is replaced by obligation and joy is replaced by performance. Friedrich Nietzsche warned that a life lived without self-chosen values leads to quiet despair, a state where the individual no longer feels responsible for their own becoming, surrendering authorship of their life to society, tradition, or fear. And despair does not always look dramatic. Often, it looks like scrolling, like procrastination, like numbness, like saying, "I'll start tomorrow," over and over again. But here's the deeper truth beneath it all. Your soul is not tired of effort. It is tired of effort without meaning. Viktor Frankl believed that even suffering becomes bearable when it is infused with purpose. But comfort becomes unbearable when it is empty of meaning. And this is why people living relatively easy lives can feel profoundly exhausted while others facing great hardship remain inwardly alive. Spiritual disconnection does not mean something mystical or abstract. It means living without presence, without alignment, without a felt sense of why you are here. And when that connection fades, the body follows. Motivation drains. Energy stagnates. Life feels heavy. Now ask yourself, what part of you have you been ignoring? What truth have you been postponing because it felt inconvenient, risky, or unclear? What longing keeps resurfacing, no matter how many times you try to silence it? Carl Jung believed that what we resist persists, and what we fail to integrate returns as suffering. And often, what we call laziness is simply the psyche refusing to cooperate with a life that feels inauthentic. Alan Watts would say that the problem is not that you don't know what to do, but that you have forgotten how to listen, how to sit with uncertainty without rushing to distraction, how to feel your own experience without labeling it as wrong. Because presence is not something you earn. It is something you remember. And the moment you stop fighting yourself, energy begins to return, not as a burst of motivation, but as a quiet clarity, a sense of direction, a subtle feeling that something inside you is finally being acknowledged. This is where rebuilding begins, not with discipline, not with shame, but with reconnection, with asking better questions instead of forcing better habits, with curiosity instead of criticism, with listening instead of pushing. Friedrich Nietzsche believed that becoming who you are requires solitude, honesty, and courage. The courage to step away from borrowed values and listen for your own voice beneath the noise. And that voice does not shout. It whispers. It speaks through resistance, through fatigue, through boredom, through the quiet sense that there must be more than this. You are not lazy. You are disconnected. And disconnection is not a failure. It is a starting point. Because the moment you recognize it, you are no longer completely asleep. You are beginning to return. Return to presence. Return to meaning. Return to yourself. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to Becoming You, and keep growing with us. And if you watched until the end, comment the word reconnection below, and share what this realization awakened within you.